Good evening, everyone. Maneco 64 here. Just tell me if you can hear me well. I think you should. I'm a little early, a couple of minutes. I saw there's quite a few people. Mr. B, I saw that story and I've tweeted it out. It's got quite a bit of interest. And the title of my live stream, Wealth Preservation and Being Out of the Financial System, I put that up before that story came out, and it like fits quite well. Let's see. I've got quite a few people here already. 63, good. 23 thumbs up. That's good. There's Billy. He's asleep as usual. Ebbe Otson from Denmark. Hi, Ebbe. Haven't seen you around before. SW. Hi, SW. Good. I was just checking the audio. Thank you, Pablo. Yeah, Billy taking a nap, afternoon nap. Billy, he loves going out though and chasing stuff and going out for walks, but he sleeps a lot as well. Hi, Jeff. Alan Trentini from Belgium. Tritune. Evening, Tritune. Yeah, good to see new viewers. It's nice to get new people. Melly from Sweden. Memory from Atlanta, Georgia. The Monochrome says, great content. Happy to be here. Thank you. Yeah, is it Andrew, what do you think of the trade war meeting result? Oh, it looks like I'm getting some buffering now. Wow, it was just a kicking down the road, kicking the can down the road again. It was called a phase one, and they haven't even come to an agreement. They're going to take over to iron it out. So yeah, I think maybe the markets might not react very well this week. People have had time to digest what really happened over the weekend. Who knows? Dimitris from Greece. Hi, Dimitris. Russell from South Africa. Peter Wilson from Florida. Give me eyeballs from Estonia. That's pretty good from all around the world. Penny pinching prepper from Seattle. Exist from Switzerland. I've been a few times to Zurich. I used to go play golf tournaments. I used to travel all around Switzerland playing golf tournaments. Project manager from Auckland, New Zealand. So let's go to the story that's come out on Zero Hedge before I go on to what I really plan to talk about today. And I'll put the link to it here. You guys can have a look at it. An article saying that gold is very important. It will be the only thing that will bring back confidence in the system once the system collapses. As warning, if the entire system collapses, gold will be needed to start over. And it says it's not just for blogs who for the past 11 years have been warning that a monetary reset is inevitable, and the only viable fallback option once trust and faith is lost is a gold standard. So there you go. Not surprising to me. I think, central banks, the reason they try to keep the public away from gold is that they don't want the public to buy gold. Because if they buy gold, they'll clean out the central banks, you see, and the central banks will be nothing without gold. They've got nothing. Paper is worthless, right? So they have to have some gold. And that's why the general public is not encouraged to buy physical gold. That's why the gold market is run through the futures market, the LBMA. That's why they keep it very volatile. A lot of times they put people off, right? And people just don't learn that you don't speculate and trade gold. You need to accumulate it over time, try to dollar bridge and hold on to it. That's how I feel about it. And I think the Dutch central bank is correct. And it says that the Dutch central bank has moved all their gold within Holland to a military facility, which is quite interesting. Mike Hernes, I have listened to Small Gold before, but not recently. Yeah, Liberty Flash. I know that Thomas Jefferson quote. Yeah, I think Andrew Jackson as well was a very big opponent of the of central banking. Andrew Jackson, he was the only at 1835 was the only time the U.S. paid off its national debt. It was at zero. It was under Andrew Jackson, and it was the year after he did not renew, I think, the charter for the Second Bank of the United States. Mark Hills, engineer from Auckland. Hi, Mark. Nice to see people from all around the world. Oh, there's No. He's a potato farmer from Maine. He's just finished his harvest. Nice to see you back, No. And happy belated birthday. No had his birthday on the 4th. I had mine on the 3rd of October. Benoit, you're welcome. So the reason why I wanted to talk about like wealth preservation, what does that mean? I think it means that you should try to preserve your wealth and not try to speculate and try to make huge returns at the moment. I think things are very dangerous, and that's why you need to keep, in my opinion, accumulating like precious metals, cryptocurrencies as well. Even though cryptocurrencies are very volatile, I think they will do well. Yeah, and try to avoid the banks like the plague, I would say. And with that, one of the viewers sent me an email with a link to a video, and I highly recommend it. It's about HSBC. It's the whistleblower who exposed the money laundering of HSBC back in 2012, and he's actually still around. And he gave an interview with let's see, the Common Sense Show. So I recommend that on YouTube. So he exposed them in early 2012, and then the DOJ had to they didn't prosecute criminally HSBC, but if you remember, they fined them 1.9 billion. And the latest interview he gives with the Common Sense Show was in April 2019, and it's amazing what he says there about the banks, that HSBC was using people's social security and people's identities. They steal people's identity and social security to put through all this money laundering. So we need to try to avoid banks. Of course, I have a bank account and I need to use the bank, but just to pay expenses, and maybe try to get away even from paying expenses through the banks. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. And that's why I think it's important, if you have if you've lent a lot to the bank, which is having cash in the bank, about that, in my opinion. Kathleen Chen, hello, Kathleen. So I'm trying to see answer as many questions as possible. Blue Hawaii from Las Vegas. I prepare for hard times, but it gets tough listening. Continue to the sky falling down. No debt, gold coins. Yeah, it does. Blue Hawaii. There's the old saying that ignorance is bliss, but I think it's good to know what's going on. I think you need to try to live your life to the fullest, but be aware of these things. That's what I try to do. Yeah, of course, sometimes it's frustrating listening and knowing what's going on. And I think it's almost impossible to try to oppose these people. They're too powerful. I think we just need to know what's going on and protect yourself. That's how I look at it. Well, I try to expose them, I guess, through my videos. I try to help people out maybe, with my knowledge of the system. I've worked in the markets and in banking for over 20 years. So, Nicola, no, building society, it's a bank, building society. So I don't think it's okay to have some there, but I wouldn't put a lot with them. They're a bank. Building societies in the UK, for example, there's only 5 clearing banks. So you find that your building society, whichever one that is, they bank with one of the big banks. So indirectly, you're lending to a bank. George Hawking, does U.S. Treasury gold backstop the Fed reserves? Well, yeah, the Fed does hold gold certificates. The Fed has claim to that U.S. Treasury gold because in 1933, when the Treasury confiscated the gold, they did it through the Federal Reserve. So, and the Federal Reserve gave the gold to the Treasury, but the Treasury had to issue gold certificates to the Fed. So the Fed actually has claims. You look at their balance sheet; they have claims to the U.S. gold, U.S. Treasury gold, and it's valued at $42.22. And not sure why they keep it valued. So yeah, the Fed could always, but it's the Treasury that has to revalue the gold. I think it was done in the 70s, the last revaluation. So the Treasury could revalue it to 10,000, and that would really reliquify the Federal Reserve. I'm trying to just see all the questions here. I'm sorry if I don't see all of them. There's quite a few of you today. That's good, 253. Alan Trentini, do you think a safe in the bank is safe? No, no. I think the safest thing is trying to keep it as close to you as possible. Yeah, you need to hide it well. Not with a bank, though. SAC Media. Hi, SAC Media. Michael Jensen, the bullion banks, they are the commercial banks. JP Morgan, Citibank, Barclays, they also deal in bullion. So, yeah. But they don't, you see, if you have an account, if you have a lot of money, for example, wealthy individual have an account with JP Morgan, Citibank, or HSBC, and you call them and you say you have a private banking account, and you say, I want to buy gold, they'll do it for you, but they won't deliver it to you. It's what they call FX gold. So for very wealthy people, I don't recommend they deal with the bullion banks if they can. They need to go outside the system and buy the physical. That's why I recommend for people in the UK gold investments. Gold investments. Gold Money account, DMC. I have an account with Gold Money. I've had it for years. But most of you know what happened to Glint. I did recommend Glint. I did say that I prefer physical gold. I think Glint is coming back. I don't think they've run away with people's gold or money, but it just shows you that counterparty risk. So we've learned a lesson there. Nothing is really safe unless you're holding it, like I'm holding my coin here. Mike Hearns, TD Ameritrade is broker. I'm not sure if they probably have accounts with the big banks. Yeah, the big brokers like that usually have accounts with the banks. Trading accounts, yeah, they're not safe either, Pat, because they like Charles Schwab, for example, they bank probably with J.P. Morgan or one of the big banks. All the brokers have accounts with the banks because they're not banking institutions. So when you send them like $10,000 or $5,000 to trade with them, they will put that money in the bank in their with their account with the bank. I agree, Vincent. Banking holidays since 1933. We haven't in the U.S. Here, it's been since World War One. We don't really have real money. When people call paper notes cash, that's a misnomer. Cash is actually specie or gold or silver. So when people say we're going to go into a cashless society, we already are technically in the cashless society. March 2, no, I wasn't being paid by Glint. No, I didn't get a penny from Glint. I was going to get, if people opened accounts with Glint through me, I would get a small percentage of their fees. But they gave me a spreadsheet of what I did in August, but I don't expect to get anything. So I've actually done interviews with the CEO. I've talked about Glint, but I haven't gotten a penny from them. Trying to get through all the questions. Yes, Pat, I'm not sure why. I've got my PC hooked up to an Ethernet cable because that's supposed to help. I can't do anything about it. It's just the Wi-Fi here is usually good, but today it's not very good. So I can't do anything about it. SW, I'm not sure. I think it's going to come out soon, the story about Glint. I've heard that there's someone trying to take over them. They pushed them into administration. Who knows? Jaco von Rosentuin, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. He just bought his first silver coins. That's good. No, nothing, no financial institution, Kristen, credit unions either. None of them are safe. That's why, in my opinion, precious important. Or any tangible assets as well. If you have your own house or property and you have a mortgage on it, try to pay off as much as possible so you own it outright. What would be the stimulus for the next meltdown? It's a reset versus gold and silver. That's the only thing they have left. As the Dutch central banker said, if you go to zero hedge, there's an interesting story there about that. The Dutch central bank said that gold will be the only thing that will save, restart the system after the next collapse. Tom Joad, Coinbase. I don't leave any of my cryptocurrencies in exchange. I do have accounts with exchanges. I only use them when I need to buy or sell cryptocurrencies, or so I keep them in a private wallet. Hiker 9, the safety deposit boxes. Well, you really need to do your homework. Who that's with. It's better than keeping it in a safe in a bank. But here in London, years ago, about 10 years ago, I think the police broke into a safety deposit box place, and their excuse was that they were actually safe. Hi, Isabel. Dave Humphreys, do you think we're going for a reset? we've been resetting for years. The debasement of currencies is a reset. I guess what you mean is like a really sharp move higher, a big drop. We will. It's difficult to say when. We're getting closer, though. I think people are realizing that central bankers are not going to be able to get out of this policy of money printing. Yeah, Pat, I know it's getting worse. Can't do anything about it. Let's wait. It says here your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try reconnecting. So I'll wait. Can you hear me, or is it really bad now? That Jubilee, I think by resetting versus precious metals, that's a debt Jubilee de facto. But okay, it's good now. YV is money created out of thin air if Fed injects each day the same amount. While the repo, it's not new money, right? It's 75 billion, and then it matures in one day, and they re-inject that 75 billion. What's new printed money is every month now they're doing another 6 billion of QE. So that's even worse. It's not just a repo they're doing now. They're not going to do another 60 billion every month. That's new money. Magma, I haven't read that book, 28 Years in Wall Street by Clues. Yeah, I saw that Greece issued some bills that were slightly a negative yield. It's a strange world. Cyber thinks bankers will shock the world with an overnight paper currencies revaluation. Excuse me. When you speak a lot, you need to just need a drink. It's possible they do it overnight, over a weekend. There's a story about this new contract that they're going to launch on the CME, is a Shanghai Gold Exchange, a gold contract. A lot of people are saying that the Chinese, they've also started a new contract that will be, in my opinion, be fungible with the contract on COMEX, the Shanghai Gold COMEX. Because I remember working in the futures market, we used to trade on the CME, we used to trade a Nikkei futures from the Osaka exchange. And you could trade that during Chicago hours, and then you could roll it over into Osaka. So I think that's going to be what they're going to be doing. And I read from the Shanghai Gold Exchange website, and this is what they say. I think this new gold contract on COMEX is more about the fact that China is becoming even more important in the scheme of things. And this is what they say: the cooperation also effectively enhances the global influence of the RMB denominated gold price and intensifies the internationalization, or the international voice of China's gold market, contributing to the internationalization of RMB and building Shanghai into an international financial center. So actually, I think this COMEX contract is actually an instrument for foreigners and Chinese to go more into the Shanghai exchange. And it just goes to show that China is becoming much more important, the Chinese currency as well. Whether they're going to manipulate the market, I'm not sure. Thank you, No, for the cheerleading. Thumbs up, and yeah. Also, make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Jeff Brown, USA has declared economic warfare on China by Hong Kong. It's possible. I've seen a video about how I think National Endowment for Democracy, they're like an NGO, basically probably a CIA operation in Hong Kong, and they're like actually helping these protesters. Yeah, Billy always snores. What else have I got here? There's another thing that I wanted to recommend, another channel. Oh yeah, I found a really interesting channel reading a comment from one of the videos I saw today, and it's called The Invisible Critic. He's quite funny, this guy, but he's really interesting. I think he just started his channel early this year. He looks a bit spooky because he wears a mask, but the stuff he talks about is really good. And one of the videos I recommend is episode 8, Forbidden History, Andrew Jackson versus the Bank. So that's really interesting, you know, the battle against central banking. The other one is Warren Harding, America's Worst Presidents, was actually awesome. Warren Harding, I think, was elected in 1920. Yeah, PGG, it's frozen. I can't do anything about it. My Wi-Fi is supposed to be good, but recently it hasn't been, unfortunately. Yeah, Jim Rickards. I don't trust him too much either. He's written interesting books, but he's too close to the CIA, isn't he? Frank, yeah, I don't trust any financial institution. If there's going to be an implosion of the system, all of them are going to be. You need to check out who TD Ameritrade does business with, who they bank with. So, Dave Humphreys, why is inflation not running out of control with printing money to value it? Well, the cost, everything I see in the shops here is all going up. I don't, you need to check shadow stats. All the measurements of prices are all phony. So that's how they keep interest rates low, and they fool people for that long. And Japan, you look at the Japanese yen versus gold, we're at near all-time highs, and the yen's been devaluing versus gold for years. Yeah, Mr. B, be your own bank. That's right. Or also make sure you have what if it's a business, a job, stat your income as well. So you're able to keep savings, because if you don't have a job or an income, make sure you also have a budget so you know how much you can spend. I think that's really important. It sounds like silly, but it's common sense. But a lot of people don't think like that. And don't live beyond your means. If you start living beyond your means, and that's what the bankers want you to keep borrowing, yeah, you're never going to be able to get out of it. The thing about Peter Wilson was talking about velocity, that could increase like overnight, because hyperinflation, for example, is the loss of confidence in the currency. It's not a cost push phenomenon. So yeah. Bohr, Do you see Canada in the same bad economic situation as the US? I think the whole world is slowing down. Yeah, so, and US and Canada are I think Canada is the US's biggest trading partner. So if the US goes into recession, Canada probably will as well. Which country is going to lead the GCR? Is that global currency reset? It's probably going to be US and Europe, the EU. Nicola, London property market. I don't know. I mean, I've looked at house prices. They're still pretty strong. The thing is, if the pound goes down, it could stay fairly firm. So I don't know. But like I've said, I've never bought houses, property, thinking of it as an investment. I've bought it thinking of it as a home. Of course, it's nice to have as it's a fairly liquid asset. So I wouldn't worry about house prices unless you've borrowed too much. But it's difficult to say. Right now, it's being kept up because interest rates are still really low. David Davies, thank you for the great channel. It's really sinister that the public are primed for negative rates rammed down our throats. Yeah, that's another reason to have precious metals. I think big banks in Germany are going to start charging interest for you to keep money in the bank. Hello, can you hear me? Sorry. That's going to hurt big businesses as well, because a lot of businesses need to keep cash in the bank to operate. So it's not good. Johnny Cooper, how much would you keep in the bank? Johnny, just enough to pay your monthly. That's what I do. I keep just enough to pay my monthly expenses. A lot of my utility bills and stuff go through the bank here in the UK. So I keep, and also council tax. So yeah, telephone, mobile phone bills. I keep just enough to cover that. Everything else, I try to keep gold or silver and some crypto. The percentage of gold and silver, you need to work that out yourself. Texas Sons of Liberty. Only if the law changes, if the United States goes back to the Constitution, Article 2, Section 8, and they'll have to rescind that gold. I think it was Roosevelt who issued the executive order. So yeah. It's not, they can't do it right now. The banks, they can't accept gold and silver because it's not part of the law. It would have to change. The president could change that by issuing a executive order, rescinding FDR's executive order, and you go back to the Constitution. But then that would be the end of the Federal Reserve, I would say. Or the Federal Reserve note would have to be backed by gold, 100%. Guten Roland, double-digit interest rates. Well, we almost saw it in 2012 in Europe and Southern Europe with the pigs, Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain. But they manipulated it lower. But yeah, I think in the next financial crisis, they will go to double digits, and they will take a lot faster. It will be like, because we saw in 2012, Italian rates went from 1-2% to 7 or 8, like in months. So it could happen again. Yeah. It could very easily go to 10. SWMMT is a possibility. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get all, there's quite a few of you here today, which is good. So I'm trying to go through as many different questions from different people. ABC, how does gold reliquify the Fed? Well, right now, the Fed's balance sheet values, they've got gold certificates, 200 and I think it's 8,000 metric tons, and it's valued at $42 an ounce. That's what the Treasury values the gold at. But were the Fed to say, oh, we're going to take that valuation off, or the Treasury to say that, and we're going to let it go mark to market, that would reliquify the Fed's balance sheet from. You do the maths. Right now, the gold at the Federal Reserve is valued at $11 billion, but it's at $42 an ounce. So if you revalue it at $1,500, that will reliquify it. But I think they've kept it at 42 since the 70s, but they might have to change that. That will be the reset, I think. Jefferson, sorry, I'm late. Even Glint news, I think, are supposed to come out on the 15th, so nothing over the weekend. Gabriel de la Cruz from Mexico. You're welcome. Tom Stewart, I think you're right. It's not just gold and silver that you need to have. And it's like prepping, right? Or living more near the country. Don't be in the inner cities. It's not going to be a great place. So there's all that as well. I don't want to just sound, oh, gold and silver will save you. But yeah, it's more than just gold and silver, right? But it will help you, of course. I recommend the mandibles. Excuse me, the mandibles. It's really interesting. This is how you spell it, the mandibles. It's a very good book. I read it earlier this year. I couldn't put it down. Tom Taylor, I actually think if things go sour and things implode, it won't even matter. The gold will be like, and silver will be priceless. They'll be really, so I wouldn't worry about the fiat price, $10,000. I've listened to recently to Bob Moriarty of 321.com, and that guy, he's not always a perma bull, but he actually thinks the system is so screwed up that the price could be, it won't even matter. There won't be a price. So you're going to have to be dealing in ounces and gram. Someone's going to say, oh, I'll take a gram of gold for so-and-so, right? Yeah. So I wouldn't worry too much about the fiat or Federal Reserve note price of gold, because that's what it is. It's not the dollar price. It's the Federal Reserve note. Banking holiday tomorrow, OG says. I think tomorrow is a U.S. holiday, public holiday. And banks might not be, I think the government is shut down, federal government. Not sure if the banks are closed. Do you mean more like a Roosevelt-style banking holiday? I don't know. It's always possible. Daniel Liu, I heard about that story. 1 ounce for a villa. I think it was a hotel. No, I haven't heard any news, Marine Stu, about Glint. I think they're going to come out on the 15th with more news. But it looks like the there's a company that wants to put a hostile bid on Glint, where they tried to take them over in the beginning of the year. Glint said no, and then what they did is they bought a loan from a creditor of Glint, and then they triggered a covenant of that loan. So I think it's been a dispute. I think the money and the money and the gold is still there. We've been told by the administrator. Dave Humphreys, I don't think the world is going to implode. The thing about money and the financial system, it's that it's created by man, and it can be fixed very easily. I mean, I lived in Brazil, and I was there when the currency collapsed once. Yeah, it was disruptive, but life went on. That's what people need to understand. You can't be scared. If anything, there might be opportunity. So like in Chinese, I think crisis and opportunity means the same, right? Stephen Hall, no, I wouldn't borrow money. By borrowing money, you're like dealing with the banks, and I think you want to be I think you want to be away from dealing with these people, with the banks. Evening, Jane. Nice to see you. Indian banks, I don't know. I heard there's one that had some trouble a couple weeks ago, but all banks are, none of the banks in the world are safe. They all follow the fiat model. They're not really banks. Yeah, Clement. Monge 2, yeah, a house is better than having a currency that's going to collapse. Of course it is. I saw that there are some ATMs running out of money in Hong Kong. People are taking out the money, but I haven't really looked too much into it lately. Are you welcome, Renee? Alan, that's the that's what they will probably do, a bail-in. Yeah, that's the if you read all the stuff that was being said and written about during the Cyprus crisis, they said it was a blueprint for the next financial crisis. Yeah, and that's another reason why you shouldn't have to loan the banks too much money, because once you put your money in the bank, or your debt-based currency in the bank, it's not yours anymore. It's a loan, unsecured loan to the bank. Monge 2, thank you. Yeah, that's interesting, Dave, talking about Ireland. I think the only institution or business that had any cash in Ireland after that crash was Paddy Power, which is a betting company. They had more money and cash than all the Irish banks. So there you go. What happens to a mortgage during hyperinflation? Well, it will. I think in Germany, what they did after the hyperinflation doesn't last that long. It's a few months. After they reset the system and bring in a new currency, they will revalue previous value before the hyperinflation. So you still have a mortgage. The bankers will make sure of that. That's why I tell people. People say, "Oh, should I take on more debt to buy assets?" Because if we're going to have a hyperinflation, no, I think it's very dangerous. You could be lucky, who knows? But I wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't trust them. FlowNet07 is the end of the UK if Brexit is done. Well, the way they're, it looks like they're selling Northern Ireland down the down the drain. It could be, because it looks like Boris Johnson wants to keep Northern Ireland in the EU customs union, but at the same, I don't know. I think what we're going to end up having is a Brexit, a Brino, Brexit in name only. I don't think Boris Johnson is going to take the UK out without a deal, but he should, I think. The other thing that I think is good is having maybe after the system implodes, because I think right now, like fine wine, for example, is a bit of a bubble. But if there is a crash, I think yeah, that could be a place to put some your money as well. Fine wine, land, if you have access to land, property, just keep it out of the financial system, in my opinion. Vincent, food, of course, is the most important. And some people think that if things get really crazy, if the whole system implodes, that we won't be able to get any food, and that's possible. I remember in Brazil, I think it was 87, we had a currency collapse, and it was hard to get anything in the supermarkets. But for example, I knew someone who had access to dollars, and they were able to go to a farmer and buy meat. So it would be possible that you could exchange your gold or silver for agricultural goods. But yeah, it doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. But City of London is when Brexit goes through. City of London is like along with the Vatican and Washington D.C. They're actually independent cities. So the City of London is going to be fine. They might lose some business, but I think I think they're already catering to the Chinese. So if they lose some French or German business, they'll be getting some from the Chinese. Yeah, Billy's snoring. I have seen the Adair Borgia. I have seen that Spider's Web documentary on YouTube. Yeah, it's the stealth British Empire of the City. Yeah, yeah. I do have some junk silver. Bit Ventures. I do have some Bitcoin, and I'm going to add to some Bitcoin. I'm going to buy some gold as well, hopefully soon. I sold some of part of my private pension because when you turn 55, which I did on the 3rd of October here in the UK, you can access your private pension. And I'm going to buy mostly precious metals, and I want to buy some Bitcoin. Ripple, I'm not. I have had Ripple in the past, but it's not for me. I do have EOS as well. Yeah, I saw Libra coin is like a dud, isn't it? Pudenda Johnson, get out of the system. Yeah, get out of the system as much as possible. Of course, you can't unless you want to be a hermit and go into the mountains. Try to avoid as much as possible. Cash, you might want to keep a little bit of cash, but I prefer precious metals. But yeah, if there is a banking collapse, it's good to have some cash as well, because you probably won't be able to use your debit card or access the ATM. MMNO says, showed my farmer friends some gold coins, had positive reactions. Some are currently into stocks and moan of no yields. Tom Seward, do you have food stockpile? No, I don't, Tom, but I do live very close to the countryside. Maybe I should have, though. Maybe toilet paper as well is very important, apparently. Well, not apparently, but it makes sense. The problem about the economic system nowadays is like a just-in-time delivery is heavily dependent on credit. And if credit collapses, yeah, we could be run out of things very quickly. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, but it could. Cigarettes are yeah, they are. Cigarettes are a great alternative as well to cash, because everyone wants it. Not everyone, but a lot of people still smoke. Billy just got up, so he's going to stop snoring. Instant coffee, yeah. Mark Hills, Bitcoin, I think will. I don't know much about Bitcoin Cash. I like EOS. That's my favorite because the guy who started out EOS is the guy who started Steemit, and I think Steemit is a good platform. Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin, don't know. I think I'll stick to Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is, yeah, will always be. It's like the gold. I think of cryptos. Some people think Litecoin is the silver. The thing about Bitventure, I say blockchain technology is in place, but doesn't make sense because the thing about blockchain is supposed to be decentralized. So I can't see how the IMF or the World Bank could have blockchain. There's no central authority. Bo Radley, income streams during a depression. I'd have to do some research. I don't know what would do well in the depression. Precious metals, I think, will do well. People are going to be after it. Mining companies. I think home stake mining did really well during the depression. The problem about the depression, there won't be much income. That's the problem. Bootleggers, real estate. SW will send you some money on PayPal for your advice. Oh, thank you, SW. I like cryptos, and I have cryptos. I have a fair amount, not as much as precious metals. The only thing I don't like about cryptos is that you can't hold it. I know that if you have your private wallet, it will always be there. But what if there's a problem with electronics or the world functioning? I always think that having something physical is better. But I still think, yeah, cryptos will do well as well. But I prefer And with the cryptos as well, if you're going to spend it, unless the shop accepts cryptos, and most shops don't, what they accept is like probably an exchange from cryptos to fiat. But the day that if the system does be a good thing. Charles Patterson, I'm not sure. It's really slow, and the scalability is not as good as the EOS. But you could be right. It's still very successful, Ethereum. We'll have to see. Applications, right? Mr. B, I saw that story about the tobacco shops in France selling Bitcoin. That's quite interesting. I was surprised. I haven't read the whole thing. I saw the headline. Jan Marsh, did you pay tax on pension above 25? Well, I haven't received the money yet. I will have to declare the amount over 25%, and you pay income tax on that. So it will depend on, I guess. We'll see. I'll just keep a little bit aside if I have to pay tax on it. But yeah, the first 25% is tax free. Learn how to grow your own food. Yeah. All right. I'll take a couple of, well, a few more questions, and then we'll call it a day. I don't want this to go on for too long. We've been here for almost an hour. Bitcoin prediction. I don't like making predictions, but I think we'll be 30,000 by the end of next year. 30,000. Yes, Isabella, they did bail out the Deutsche Bank. They lifted the liquidity requirements. I think it was on Thursday for foreign banks, and the bank that was helped the most was Deutsche Bank. I made a video about that. I think it was last Wednesday or Thursday. What will happen to the stock market? I think the stock market will either go like Venezuela, where Venezuela at one point Caracas had the best performing stock market, but their currency was almost worthless. So, or it will crash. Either one, but it's not going to be pretty, I think. No, I haven't got Hecla anymore. Hecla Mining. Tom Jode. I don't have any stocks anymore at the moment. I sold the stocks in my pension. I'm gonna hopefully buy some physical gold. I'm thinking of buying maybe some fine wine as well. Tusk. I learned a little bit about the Italian wines when I was in Florence. I'm thinking of buying some when I get some of my pension money. Marine Stew, thank you for the super chat donation. Have a coffee. Cheers. Yeah, that's about 2 lattes now at Starbucks. They keep going up. The small one is now, I think, $2.75 if you take the cup with you. I remember when it was £2 or $1.75. So there's no inflation, right? Okay, everyone. Thanks a lot. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it tonight. I hope you did as well. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.